Welcome to another exciting game of varsity girls volleyball here on CPHS 6. I'm Emily Desmond, and tonight we have the Pointe Huron Northern Huskies versus the Grosse Pointe North Norsemen. And that's going to be off the hands of Catherine Roy, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Erin Gallagher now serving for the Huskies. Over to Roy. Murphy with the ball. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Brianne Reveley with the serve. That won't make it over the net, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Brenna Murphy now serving. The Huskies unable to get it over the net, and that's going to tie the game up at 2. Colleen Reveley now serving. Over to Murphy. To Riley Fielko. To Richards. Kohler gets it over, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Mackenzie Lance now serving. And that'll be a point for the Huskies. Huskies taking an early 4-2 lead. Lance with the serve to Kuzmano. Over to Riley Fielko. And it'll drop in, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Brianne Reveley now serving. To Murphy, to Richards. Dooley gets it over. To Colleen Reveley. And that ball will drop out, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Brianne Reveley serving. Not able to get it over the net, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Huskies leading 5-4 over the Norsemen. Amy Sang with the serve. And that'll drop in for a point. Huskies leading 6-4. Sang with the serve. And that's going to be a court violation on the Norsemen, and that will give the Huskies a point. To Brianne Reveley. Bessert gets it over. Kohler gets it over. And Brianne Reveley unable to get it over the net. Huskies leading 8-4. Guest to Colleen Reveley. To Brianne Reveley, they get it over. Shell gets it over. To Colleen Reveley. Bessert gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Julia Guest now serving. To Dooley, to Richards. Murphy unable to get it over, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Guest now serving. To Sang, to Kohler. Shell gets it over. To Colleen Revley. Kohler gets it over. And it'll be dropped in by Krista Racevich. Guest with the serve. And it won't make it over the net, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Huskies leading 9-7 over the Norsemen. Kohler with the serve. To Colleen Revley. And Krista Racevich gets it over. Catherine Roy with the serve. To Richard. Shell gets it over and in. And Huskies now lead 10-8. Mackenzie Lance makes her way back into the game. Becca Richards now serving. To Guest. To Colleen Revley. And it looks like there is some dispute on the call. And the Huskies will get the point. Richards with the serve. To Guest. To Colleen Revley. To Racevich. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. The Norsemen trailing by 2. Now serving is Kim Cosmano. Over to Lance. Brienne Revley. And the Huskies unable to get there. Huskies still leading 11-10. Cosmano with the serve. To Murphy. To Richards. Shell gets it over. To Roy. And Guest unable to get it over the net. Huskies leading 12-10. Guest to Colleen Revley. To Brienne Revley, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Krista Racevich now serving. Lance gets it over, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Huskies leading 13-11. Brienne Murphy now serving. Unable to get it over net, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Now serving is Colleen Revley. Over to Sang. To Richards. Lance gets it over. It'll be blocked by Guest. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. This will tie the game up at 13. Colleen Revley serving. Over to Murphy. To Richards. Kohler gets it over and in. Huskies take a 14-13 lead. Lance with the serve. And that ball will go out, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Mackenzie Lance now serving. To Cosmano, to Colleen Revley, to Brienne Revley, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Brienne Revley now serving for the Norsemen. To Sang, to Kohler, Dooley gets it over. Guest gets it over to Richards, to Riley Fielko, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Huskies leading 16-14. Amy Sang now serving. Over to Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. Bessert unable to get it over. Julia Guest with the serve, to Dooley. This will tie the game up at 16. Guest with the serve, to Sang, to Richards. It'll hit the net, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen, who take a 17-16 lead over the Huskies. Guest with the serve, to Dooley, to Sang. Shell gets it over. Bessert unable to get there in time, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. This will tie the game up at 17. Rachel Kohler with the serve. Brienne Revley to Guest. Brienne Revley gets it over. Shell able to make it over, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Huskies breaking the tie. They're leading 18-17. Kohler with the serve to Guest, to Colleen Revley. And Brienne Revley gets it over for the point. Catherine Roy back in the game for the Norsemen. Roy with the serve, to Dooley, to Richards. Murphy gets it over. Huskies leading 19-18. Becca Richards now serving. To Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. Bessert gets it over. This will tie the game up at 19. Kim Cosmano with the serve, to Kohler, to Richards. Lance gets it over, to Guest, to Brienne Revley. Shell gets it over. It'll be out, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen taking a 20-19 lead over the Huskies. Cusmano with the serve, to Murphy, to Richards. Murphy gets it over, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. This will tie the game up at 20. Aaron Gallagher now serving. To Cusmano, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley unable to get it over. The dive by Cusmano is no good. Huskies now leading 21-20. Gallagher with the serve, to Colleen Revley. Krista Racevich gets it over. This will tie the game up at 21. Racevich with the serve to Sang to Richards. Kohler gets it over. It'll drop on the line, and the Huskies take a 22-21 lead. Brianne Murphy now serving. To Racevich to Colleen Revley. Guest unable to get it over. Huskies now leading 23-21. And that's going to draw a timeout. Both teams making their way back out on the court. Huskies leading 23-21. Brianne Murphy with the serve. And it'll drop in. Excellent attack there by Murphy. And that'll draw another timeout. And we're back. Brianne Murphy with the serve. To Racevich to Colleen Revley. Brianne Revley gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Huskies leading 24-22 over the Norsemen. Colleen Revley with the serve. To Murphy, to Richards. Kohler gets it over, it's blocked. To Richards, to Lance. Kohler gets it over to Brianne Revley. And Caitlin Gatley unable to get there in time. And the Huskies will win the first game 25-22 over the Norsemen. And we are back for the second game. Huskies winning the first. Becca Richards now serving the second. To Guest. Murphy with the ball. To Richards. Lance gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Kim Kuzmano now serving. To Murphy. To Shell. Murphy gets it over. To Kohler. Richards gets it over to Kuzmano. To Colleen Revley. Guest gets it over to Sang. To Richards. Kohler gets it over to Richards. Lance gets it over to Kuzmano. To Colleen Revley. Kuzmano gets it over to Kohler. To Richards. Lance gets it over to Guest. To Colleen Revley. Brianne Revley gets it over, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen's taking an early lead, 2-0. Kuzmano with the serve to Richards. Lance gets it over, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Aaron Gallagher and Riley Fielko now in the game for the Huskies. Gallagher with the serve. Brienne Revley gets it over, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Racevich with the serve, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Brienne Murphy with the serve. To Colleen Revley. To Richards. Kohler gets it over. Aluya not able to get there in time, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. This will tie the game up at 3. Murphy with the serve. To Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. To Brienne Revley. Richards, so Kohler gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Huskies. Huskies taking a 4-3 lead over the Norsemen. Murphy with the serve to Racevich. Guest gets it over. Sang able to get it over to Murphy. Brienne Revley able to get it over. Huskies unable to get there in time, and that will tie the game up at 4. Colleen Revley with the serve to Murphy, to Richards. Riley Fielko gets it over. Brienne Revley drops it in, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen taking a 5-4 lead over the Huskies. Colleen Revley with the serve to Murphy. And Brienne Revley drops it in again. Norsemen taking a 6-4 lead. Colleen Revley with the serve to Lance, to Richards. Murphy gets it over. Kuzmano with the dive, unable to get it over the net. Norsemen still up 6-5, and Mackenzie Lance will serve for the Huskies. To Guest, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley, it'll be blocked. Norsemen taking a 7-5 lead. Brienne Revley now serving. To Dooley, to Richards. Dooley gets it over. To Racevich, to Colleen Revley. Bessert gets it over. To Riley Fielko. Kohler gets it over. It'll be dropped in by Julia Guest, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen now taking an 8-5 lead. Brienne Revley now serving. To Dooley. And the ball will go out, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen now with a 9-5 lead. Brienne Revley with the serve, it'll drop in. Huskies now down by 5. Brienne Revley with the serve. It'll go out, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Amy Sang now serving. To Racevich, to Colleen Revley. Bessert gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Guest with the serve to Dooley. It'll just drop in, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen up 12-6 over the Huskies. Guest with the serve to Dooley to Richards. Kohler gets it over, it'll be blocked. Kohler tries to get it over, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Guest with the serve to Dooley. Richards, Shell tries to get it over, back to Dooley to Richards. Kohler gets it over, drops it to Shell, to Richards. Shell will drop it in. Norsemen still leading 13-7 over the Huskies. Rachel Kohler now serving. To Guest, to Colleen Revley. Besert gets it over, it'll be out. Huskies will get the point. Kohler now serving. To Brienne Revley. To Shell, to Richards. Shell gets it over to Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. It'll be blocked by the Huskies. Norsemen still leading 13-9 over the Huskies. Kohler with the serve to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over to Dooley, to Richards. Murphy gets it over, it'll drop in. Huskies making their way back into this game. Norsemen leading 13-10. Kohler with the serve to Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. Racevich unable to get it over the net. Huskies with another point. Huskies now only trailing by 2. Kohler with the serve to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Besert gets it over to Sang, to Richards. Murphy gets it over. It'll drop just inside. Huskies now only down by 1, and that'll be a timeout. Both teams making their way back out on the court. Rachel Kohler now serving for the Huskies. To Guest, to Colleen Revley. Besert tries to get it over. This will tie the game up at 13. Caitlin Gatley now in the game for the Norsemen. Kohler with the serve to Gatley, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over. Kohler tries to go for the dive. It's no good. Norsemen now leading 14-13 over the Huskies. Vida Alulia now serving to Dooley, to Richards. Murphy gets it over to Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. Racevich gets it over, it'll drop in. Norseman now taking a 15-13 lead over the Huskies. Aluya with the serve to Murphy, to Richards. Murphy gets it over. It'll drop outside. The Norsemen lead 16-13. Aluya with the serve to Dooley, to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Guest, to Colleen Revley, Brienne Revley, to Richards. Murphy gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Aluya with the serve to Sang, to Richards. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen gaining 18-13 to Sang. Norsemen now leading 19-13, and that'll be a timeout. Both teams now back on the court. The Norsemen leading 19-13 over the Huskies. Vida Aluya with the serve to Dooley, to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Aluya, to Colleen Revley. And she'll be on the other side, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Becca Richards now serving to Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. Racevich gets it over, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen leading 20-14 over the Huskies. Kuzmano with the serve to Sang, to Richards. Lance gets it over to Aluya, to Colleen Revley, to Brienne Revley, to Sang, to Kohler. Richards gets it over to Aluya, to Colleen Revley. Racevich gets it over and in. A very nice volley. Kuzmano with the serve to Kohler, to Richards. And that'll be a point for the Huskies. Aaron Gallagher and Riley Fielko now back in the game. Aaron Gallagher with the serve to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over to Richards. Some miscommunication there on the Huskies side, and that'll result in a Norseman point. Krista Racevich, with the serve to Murphy. Kuzmano to Alulia, gets it over to Murphy, to Richards. Lance gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Huskies. Brianna Murphy now serving to Colleen Revley, to Brianne Revley. Kohler gets it over to Richards, to Lance. Kohler drops it over and in. Huskies down 17-22. Murphy with the serve to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. Brianne Revley unable to get it over. Huskies climbing their way back. They're down 18-22 over the Norsemen. Murphy with the serve to Alulia. Brianne Revley gets it over and in. Colleen Revley with the serve to Lance, to Murphy. Lance gets it over to Colleen Revley, to Leisha, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Mackenzie Lance with the serve to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. Brianne Revley gets it over to Murphy, to Richards. Riley Fielko gets it over. Kohler gets it over to Kuzmano. To Colleen Revley will step out, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Huskies down by 3. Lance with the serve to Guest. It'll be out. Huskies will get the point. And that'll draw a Huskies timeout. Both teams back out on the court. The Norsemen leading 23-21 over the Huskies. Mackenzie Lance now serving. To Brianne Revley. Guest gets it over to Murphy, to Richards. Lance gets it over, it'll drop in. Huskies now only down by 1. They're back in this game. Lance with the serve to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. Brianne Revley gets it over to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. Brianne Revley gets it over. It'll be out. That'll be a point for the Norsemen. Brianne Revley now serving. To Sang, to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Colleen Revley, to Dooley. Riley Fielko to Kohler gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. The Norsemen will win 25-22 over the Huskies. And we're back for the start of the third game. Huskies won the first. The Norsemen won the second. And Kim Kuzmano with the serve. To Murphy. To Richards. Kohler gets it over. It'll actually hit the net, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Kuzmano with the serve. To Kohler. To Richards. Lance gets it over to Guest. To Racevic. Alulia unable to get it over the net. This will tie the game up at 1. Aaron Gallagher and Riley Fielko now in the game for the Huskies. Gallagher with the serve to Alulia. To Colleen Revley. Guest gets it over to Kohler. To Richards. Lance gets it over to Guest. To Colleen Revley. Racevic gets it over to Richards. To Lance. Murphy gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Huskies. Huskies taking a 2-1 lead. Gallagher now serving to Alulia, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over to Murphy, to Richards. Lance gets it over to Guest, to Colleen Revley, to Brienne Revley, to Richards, to Lance. Riley Fielko gets it over. It'll be off the hands of Guest, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Aaron Gallagher with the serve to Alulia, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over to Kohler. It'll hit the ceiling, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Racevic with the serve to Kohler, to Richards. Fielko gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Huskies. Brienne Murphy with the serve to Colleen Revley. Guest gets it over. It'll drop in, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Jojo Beebe now in the game for the Norsemen. Colleen Revley with the serve to Brienne Murphy, to Richards. Lance gets it over to Colleen Revley. Racevic gets it over to Richards, to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley, to Brienne Revley, to Sang, to Richards. Kohler got blocked to Lance, to Racevic. Brienne Revley gets it over to Kohler, gets it over to Racevic. Guest gets it over to Murphy, to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. Beebe gets it over to Richards. Sang gets it over to Revley, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over to Riley Fielko, to Brienne Murphy, to Sang, to Richards. Murphy gets it over. It'll drop in. And what a long volley there by both teams. Huskies will lead 5-3 over the Norsemen. Murphy with the serve to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. Beebe gets it over to Murphy, to Riley Fielko. Kohler gets it over. It'll be blocked by the Norsemen. Norsemen down 4-5 over the Huskies. Nice attack there by Brienne Revley, and that'll tie the game up at 5. Brienne Revley with the serve to Lance. And that'll be a point for the Huskies. Mackenzie Lance with the serve to Brienne Revley to Colleen Revley. Racevich gets it over. It'll be out, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Huskies with a 7-5 lead. Lance with the serve to Brienne Revley. Over to Kohler, back to Brienne Revley. Leisha gets it over to Sang, to Riley Fielko. Murphy gets it over and drops it in. Huskies leading 8-5. Lance with the serve. It won't make it over the net, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Julia Guest now serving to Riley Fielko, to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Leisha gets it over, it'll drop in. Norsemen now only trailing by 1. Guest with the serve to Kohler. Richards unable to get there in time. That'll be a point for the Norsemen, and that'll tie it up at 8. Guest with the serve. It won't make it over the net, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Alex Shell back in the game for the Huskies. Amy Sang with the serve to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Racevich is blocked to Colleen Revley. Beebe gets it over to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Murphy to Richards. Shell misses the ball, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen, tying the game up at 9. Vita Alulia now serving to Murphy, to Richards. Shell with the spike. And it looks like there was some debris on the court. Huskies leading 10-9 over the Norsemen. Kohler with the serve to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over to Murphy, to Richards. Murphy gets it over to Guest. Brienne Revley unable to get to it. Huskies leading 11-9. Kohler with the serve to Alulia, to Colleen Revley. Leisha gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen still down by 1. Kim Kuzmano with the serve to Dooley, to Kohler. Murphy gets it over to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over to Kohler, to Murphy. Kohler gets it over to Alulia, to Colleen Revley. Racevich gets it over, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. This will tie the game up at 11. Kuzmano with the serve to Sang, to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley is blocked, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Becca Richards now serving to Alulia, to Colleen Revley. Racevich gets it over, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen, tying the game up at 12. Krista Racevich with the serve to Murphy, to Shell. Kohler gets it over. It'll drop in. Huskies will take the 1-point lead. Aaron Gallagher and Riley Fielko back in the game for the Huskies. Gallagher with the serve. It'll drop in. Huskies will get the point. Gallagher with the serve to Kuzmano. And that'll drop. That'll be another point for the Huskies. Gallagher with the serve to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over to Lance, to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Guess, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley will get it over, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. JoJo Beebe back in the game for the Norsemen. Colleen Revley with the serve to Kohler, to Richards. Riley Fielko gets it over. It'll drop out, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Colleen Revley with the serve to Kohler. Blocked. Kuzmano to Colleen Revley gets it over. And that will be a point for the Norsemen. Game's tied up at 15. Colleen Revley with the serve to Kohler, to Riley Fielko. Lance will step out, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. This will tie the game up. Now the Norsemen lead 16-15 over the Huskies. Colleen Revley with the serve to Kohler, to Richards. Lance gets it over to Colleen Revley, to Beebe. Brienne Revley gets it over to Kohler, to Richards. Lance gets it over. Guest gets it over. Kohler gets it over to Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. And there's a long volley, and the Huskies will get the point. This will tie the game up at 16. Brienne Murphy now serving to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. It'll be blocked by the Huskies, and that'll be a point. Huskies leading 17-16 over the Norsemen. Murphy with the serve. It won't make it over the net, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. This ties the game up at 17. Brienne Revley with the serve to Murphy, to Richards. Riley Fielko with the spike, and that'll be a point. Huskies leading 18-17. Mackenzie Lance with the serve to Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. Leisha gets it over to Kohler. Richards gets it over to Racevic. Colleen Revley. Leisha gets it over. It'll drop in. Norsemen get the point, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. That ties the game up at 18. Guest with the serve to Kohler. Dooley unable to get there. Norsemen leading 19-18 over the Huskies. Guest with the serve to Kohler. Dooley gets it over to Brienne Rep. Kohler gets it over to Colleen Revley, to BB. Leisha gets it over off the hand of Kohler, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen leading 20-18, and that's going to be a timeout. Both teams making their way back on the court. Guest with the serve to Sang, to Richards. Riley Fielko gets it over to Colleen Revley. Leisha gets it over. It'll be off the hands of Kolar. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen's leading 21-18 over the Huskies. Guest with the serve to Sang. It'll go out. Guest with the serve to Sang, to Richards. Riley Fielko will be blocked to Murphy, to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Colleen Revley. To Richards. Riley Fielko gets it over. It'll be off the hands of Guest. And that'll be a point for the Huskies. Amy Sang now serving to Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over to Brienne Murphy, to Richards. Dooley gets it over to Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. Racevic gets it over. Norsemen will get the point. Vida Alulia now in the game for the Norsemen. And that's going to draw a timeout. Both teams back out on the court. Vida Aluya with the serve to Murphy, to Sang. Shug makes it over to Leisha, to Aluya. Leisha unable to get it over. Huskies now trailing by 3. Rachel Kohler with the serve to Aluya, to Colleen Revley. Racevich is blocked. Norseman now leading 24-20 over the Huskies. Kim Kuzmano with the serve to Brianne Murphy. Kohler gets it over to Aluya, to Colleen Revley. Brianne Revley gets it over to Aluya, to Shell, to Richards. Murphy gets it over to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Guest gets it over to Sang, to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Guest, to Aluya. Guest gets it over to Kohler, to Richards. Murphy gets it over. It'll drop in, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. The Norsemen just 1 point away from winning the game. Becca Richards with the serve to Aluya, to Colleen Revley. Brianne Revley gets it over to Sang, to Richards, to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. Racevich gets it over. And that's going to do it for the third game. The Norsemen win 25-21 over the Huskies. And we're back to start the fourth game. Norsemen winning 2 of the 3. Becca Richards now serving to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Leisha gets it over. It'll be off the hands of Sang, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Kim Kuzmano with the serve to Kohler, to Richards. Shell unable to get there, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Kuzmano with the serve to Kohler, to Richards. Murphy gets it over to Guest, to Colleen Revley, to Brianne Revley, to Richards, to Lance. Murphy gets it over, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Aaron Gallagher and Riley Fielko back in the game for the Huskies. Gallagher with the serve to Aluya. Riley Fielko drops it in to Richards. Murphy gets it over. It'll be out, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Krista Racevich with the serve to Murphy, to Richards. Lance gets it over to Racevich, to Kuzmano. Colleen Revley gets it over to Richards. Riley Fielko gets it over, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Brianne Murphy now serving to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. And Brianne Revley gets it over. That'll be a point for the Huskies. This will tie the game up at 3. Mackenzie Lance will serve. To Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. Racevich tries to get it over to Guest. Brianne Revley gets it over. It'll drop, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. JoJo Beebe in the game for the Norsemen. Delaney Dooley now in the game for the Huskies. Colleen Revley with the serve. To Sang. To Dooley. Kohler gets it over to Guest. To Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over. Kohler gets it over to Colleen Revley. To Brienne Revley. To Richards. Kohler gets it over. She'll step out, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen leading 5-3 over the Huskies. Colleen Revley now serving. To Murphy, to Richards. Looks like there was a lack of communication there on the Huskies side, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Colleen Revley with the serve. To Kohler, to Richards. Kohler gets it over, it'll be out. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen taking a 4-point lead over the Huskies. Colleen Revley with the serve. To Sang, to Richards. To Sang, Riley Fielko gets it over. To Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over. It'll be off of Brienne Murphy. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Colleen Revley with the serve. It'll be out. And that'll be a point for the Huskies. Alex Shell back in the game for the Huskies. Amy Sang with the serve. To Kuzmano. Guest unable to get it over, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Brienne Revley with the serve. To Dooley. To Racevich. Beebe gets it over. It'll be off of Dooley, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen leading 10-4 over the Huskies. Brienne Revley with the serve. It'll drop in. Great attack there by Brienne Revley, and that'll be a timeout. Both teams now back on the court. It looks like there's something going on. Hear the Huskies talking to the officials. Brienne Revley now serving for the Norsemen. Sane gets it over to Racevic, to Colleen Revley. Leisha gets it over. And that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen leading 12-4 over the Huskies. Brienne Revley now serving to Sang, to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Beebe gets it over to Dooley, to Richards. Murphy gets it over. It'll drop in, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Kohler with the serve. To Colleen Revley. Guest gets it over. It'll drop in, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen leading 13-5 over the Huskies. Guest with the serve to Sang, to Richards. Murphy gets it over to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Leash blocked by Shell. Huskies will get the point. Becca Richards now serving for the Huskies. To Colleen Revley. Racevic gets it over to Murphy. That'll be a point for the Norsemen. Vida Alulia now in the game for the Norsemen. Vida Alulia now serving to Kohler, to Richards. That'll be a point for the Norsemen. Alulia with the serve to Lance, to Richards. Lance gets it over. It'll be off of Brienne Revley and a point for the Huskies. Aaron Gallagher and Riley Fielko back in the game for the Huskies. Aaron Gallagher with the serve to Alulia, to Colleen Revley. Racevic gets it over off of Kohler to Murphy. Kohler gets it over to Racevic. Colleen Revley gets it over to Murphy. Riley Fielko gets it over to Guest, to Alulia. Guest can't get it over. Huskies will win the volley, and that'll be a point. Gallagher with the serve to Colleen Revley. Alicia hits it out, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Gallagher with the serve to Brienne Revley, to Colleen Revley. Leash gets it over, blocked by Lance. Riley Fielko, Murphy gets it over to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Leisha gets it over to Gallagher, to Richards. Murphy gets it over to Collier. Lance gets it over to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Racevic gets it over to Gallagher, to Richards. Lance gets it over. It'll be off the hands of Guest, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Huskies down by 5. Gallagher with the serve to Guest, to Colleen Revley. Leisha gets it over to Gallagher, to Richards. Murphy gets it over to Alulia, to Brienne Revley. Racevic gets it over. It'll be off the hands of Gallagher, and a point for the Norsemen. Kim Kuzmano back in the game for the Norsemen. Kuzmano with the serve to Sang, to Richards. Riley Fielko unable to get there. That'll be a point for the Norsemen. Kuzmano with the serve to Sang, to Richards. Kohler unable to get it over the net. Kuzmano with the serve to Sang, to Riley Fielko. That'll drop and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Norsemen leading 19-10 over the Huskies. Kuzmano with the serve to Kohler, to Richards. Lance will be blocked, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. And that's going to draw a timeout. And we're back from the timeout. Kim Kuzmano now serving. To Sang, to Richards. Kohler gets it over. It'll be outside, and that'll be a point for the Norsemen. Kuzmano with the serve to Murphy, to Richards. Kohler gets it over. It'll be blocked. Norsemen with another point. Now the score 22-10 over the Huskies. Kuzmano with the serve to Sang, to Riley Fielko. Lance unable to get it over. Kuzmano with the serve to Sang, to Richards, gets it over to Sang, to Richards. Lance gets it over to Alulia, to Colleen Revley. Brienne Revley gets it over. Norsemen now 1 point away. Kuzmano with the serve to Murphy, to Lance. Riley Fielko blocked. It'll drop in, and that'll be a point for the Huskies. Brienne Murphy with the serve to Kuzmano, to Colleen Revley. Racevic gets it over to Richards. Kohler gets it over to Lance. Kohler tries to get it over, it's blocked. It'll be bobbled by the Huskies, and that's gonna do it. The Norsemen win 25-11 over the Huskies, and they will take 3 games. This has been Emily Desmond with CPHS 6. Good night.